Great. Thank you very much. Well, certainly at this midpoint reflection on the SDGs, it's important to look at both the progress made and also the tremendous opportunity to leverage data and AI to drive actionable impact. And I think this 25-minute panel with 4 esteemed panelists is going to be as fast and furious as the challenges and the opportunities in front of us. But I want to start with the opportunities. And Vilas, I think you officially, your travels are wide, and I think you officially live out of a suitcase. And so, what are some of the opportunities you're seeing in terms of how countries and organisations and communities can really leverage data to benefit people and communities around the world?
Love that. Thank you, Kate, and good morning, everyone. Can I just start by saying I've always known Shamina to be an incredible convener and throws great parties. But on a Friday morning, to bring together the people that are in this room, from Doreen to Gabriella, I've seen Stefan, I've seen Lauren, incredible leaders and practitioners. Like, that truly is a magic trick. So thank you for inviting us all to this party. The opportunities, incredible opportunities. And if I wasn't in a room of practitioners, I would take some time to tell you the stories where data changes communities. But I don't need to say that in this room because you are all the ones that are leading that. So let me talk about something different. The move we've had from individual communities that are using data to shape solutions to the momentum we have now to come up with a new architecture for how we think about data, not as a commercial asset that we're reusing for social change, but as an affirmative way that we all step in and say, let's build new capacity around data that lives in the space of social change. To identify not just that commercial data sets are going to change the world, but to ask communities, what are you doing and what do you need, and how do we step in to create it for you? I think about the first part of that, how do we go to Native Indigenous populations, typically underrepresented in every commercial data set around biological drug discovery, around medicine, and say, how do we create it with you? And in that process, create a new agency around being a part of the digital revolution. I think those are the things we should be really excited about.
There's some opportunities right there. Lamia, can I turn to you? You're doing a lot of work with cities, and how are cities using data to drive social impact? And perhaps, what are the gaps that you're seeing to advance on some of the key agendas, such as the SDGs?
Yes, sorry. Thank you very much for bringing the cities issues in this conversation. I think they are very important. I think during the beginning said that we need to rescue the SDGs, and actually they are key actors, and now they are increasing being recognized as actors that could deliver on the SDGs. This data revolution has also changed the way cities are using the data. More and more cities are using more sophisticated tools and data, but they are not only consumer data, they are also big producers of data. So we have seen a lot of, new techniques being implemented by many cities, either online platform, in the area of SDGs, for instance, SDG indexed, or they are using AI. We have been seeing many cities now being interested to use the digital twins. I heard about the digital twins. But the point that I would like to make is we are talking only about a couple of front runners. Many cities are lagging behind, and many cities don't even know what we're talking about today. When in the area of the SDGs, for instance, we have been working to fill this gap and produce a localized indicator framework using all our stats and databases. We were able to track and monitor progress, and we have seen that 70% of the SDGs, of the 17 SDGs, are not well on track for most cities and regions around the world. So they are really lagging behind, and they are lacking the capacity to do so. So we are trying to help to fill the gap, but we need help. We need help because we have been able to collect 135 indicators for all the underlying targets of the 17 SDGs. We are, of course, using more and more administrative data, but also other type of source, including from the private sectors, more granular data, more geospatial data. We are entering into now partnership with the private sector. We have established the Geospatial Lab, but we need to do more to continue to increase the coverage of these indicators. There is a huge demand from national government, from international organizations. We're working very closely with UN Habitat and UNDESA to fill the gaps. So it's a call for partnership on this in this area.
One of the challenges can sometimes be accessing the data, and then another challenge is having organisations actually having the skill sets to be able to leverage it. And Lance, perhaps turning to you, digital infrastructure, digital maturity, skill sets can often be a barrier for nonprofits and other organisations, cities, to actually fully realise their ability to leverage the power of data. Can you just speak a little bit about what you're seeing and perhaps how we can build capacity for organisations around the world?
Absolutely. It's great to be here this morning with you all, and thank you. And I'm with NetHope, and we work with some of the world's leading relief, development, and conservation groups around the world. And there's an awakening about digital skills today in organizations. The leadership of organizations are increasingly becoming aware that digital skills, if their people don't have them, it's going to be a barrier to their being able to do the work they want to do, whether it's on their digital business side or whether it's in their programmatic side. And I would say, in addition to that, what we're also seeing is that not only are skills foundational, but so is inclusion and security. So if you don't build all those three things in together at the very beginning, what you'll find is that there are going to be some challenges down the line, either with understanding your data. You're going to have you're going to have to backtrack because you fail to factor in some important dimension of inclusion. The security challenge is not trivial because you have to collect data to do your programs. If you can't responsibly collect it or with some assurances of security, you shouldn't collect it, therefore you can't do your programs. So the nonprofits we work with are really waking up to these challenges and are taking it on now. You're starting to see board level conversations about some of these issues as being both barriers but opportunities for how these organizations are going to continue to deliver on the SDGs. And maybe just one point about data comparability as well. The way that many projects in the sector have been funded in the past, there's very, very good data within project silos, within program silos, but often that data is not comparable outside of those silos. And so if you can't, and so now what's happening with generative AI is that that's now opening up opportunities to be able to compare formerly incomparable data sets. That now means you can sort of unlock insights at the level of a program, a sector, a whole population you may be working with around the world. And that's going to open up new program insights. And people are going to need the skills to really know how to manage that as well.
And Vilas, just building on that, I know McGovern's invested in Data Science Accelerator Lab. Can you just a quick word about that?
Sure. I think what's interesting about it is the hypothesis 5 years ago was there were a few niche organizations that were ready to think about data science. And when we tried to fund them, they said, we have the money, thank you for that. What do we do with it to get this kind of capacity? I think the world has changed in such a material way over 5 years. In our last call for an accelerator, we were overwhelmed with applications because the supply-demand curve has shifted, right? Now every organization realizes the opportunity. What that means for us is really critical. It means that it's no longer McGovern doing this work. I know that Mastercard and Rockefeller's partnership around data.org has been one of the most critical interventions in creating a sector-wide kind of capacity. But now it's an invitation, I think, for every organization in the room to step in and say, how do we move our capacity and knowledge from a one-to-one to a one-to-many? Because every organization needs this support. And we need to even think about new institutions that support and create this capacity across the sector.
And I mean, you raise a good point. Collaboration is really key to achieving scale and impact, and I think it's why everyone is in the room today. Gina, with the UNDP Accelerator Labs, can you share some examples of successful collaborations of partnerships that you're seeing that have really amplified data-driven impact on global development?
Thank you, Kate. I think the opportunity that we should focus on here, hopefully today, is this opportunity to look at bridging the gap between assuming better data means better decisions, and better decisions will make a difference on the lives of 8 billion people around the world who are either struggling to survive or facing the effects of climate change. What we've seen in terms of collaboration, where successful collaboration works, is not just where, I run a network of 91 innovation labs inside the United Nations, and, we test out new things. We use satellite data to look at agriculture and deforestation. We look at social media data, sometimes to inform tourism policy, et cetera, et cetera. But the real gems are the moments where you bridge that gap and you actually see data that drives decision-making and either action by local communities or by people in power. people in government, people in multinational corporations, or by the 8 billion of us around the world. So one example that I want to talk about is in India. So one of our 91 labs, we have a lot of them, we went big on the lab idea, is in India. And in India, in the state of Bihar, India is an incredible state from which we learn a lot. They landed on the moon, but they're also dealing with development challenges at the same time. Bihar is one of the poorest states in India. There you've got a booming construction industry, and it's fueled by these kind of cottage industry brick kilns, right, that pollute the environment and are often hotspots for child labor and bonded labor. So the State Pollution Board, of course, has regulations about this and people to enforce those regulations, but they can't stamp down the problem because they're popping up everywhere. So they came to us, and we partnered together with Nottingham University to use geospatial data and machine learning algorithms to pinpoint, where are these brick kilns that are the hotspots for pollution and bonded labor? And we came to them, we said, we found 4,700 of them. And they said, okay, great, but we don't have enough people to patrol 4,700 spots. Get us to the ones that are most likely to be violating the rules of the game. So we went back, and apparently the team used the same algorithm that's used to differentiate dog breeds, but they basically used that algorithm to get it down to 1,600 potential hotspots where these illegal brick kilns are. The State Patrol Board in the state of Bihar was then able to go to those 1,600 spots. They closed down 1,000 of them, and they prevented 500,000 tons of carbon emissions a year from being emitted. So this is the curve that we want to see in our collaborations, is not just data that's new and exciting for us as innovators and data geeks, we love that stuff, but data that informs decisions and changes action.
I think that's a really powerful example of the collaboration that we see. Lamia, back to you with OECD. Look, as we proceed with the digital transition, what are the key priorities for data governance in cities, including for data sharing, which is obviously essential between different actors, both public and private sector?
Yes, first of all, of course, data governance is essential. In our program on smart cities, we have been looking at two dimensions: the impact on well-being of all citizens, because you can have a great smart city solution. It's not sure that it's going to have a positive impact on all members of all the citizens in a city. It can generate inequalities as well. And the second dimension is the question of the smart data governance behind it. So we're going to release soon a report which says that actually there are several challenges. Of course, the obvious one linked to data management, ownership, data storage, how cities actually are using the data in a meaningful way, and how they're going to store, because we know that they have been accumulating a large amount of data, and sometimes they don't know what to do with it. That's one question. The question of data safety and privacy is becoming crucial. They don't know sometimes how to handle it. We know that some cities during COVID, some city government have been attacked. They are hiding the information. You can imagine the political cost for a mayor when his city is being attacked. It's not like a company, it's even worse. They can even lose the elections. So I know a very concrete example about that. Another important point that we mentioned is that we have to be very mindful about not reproducing inequalities from the analog world into the digital world. And this can happen because of the type of tools that we are using, the sensors, the apps, and so on. Actually, if they could exclude some members of the population in the cities, the children, the elderly, the non-bankable people who don't have access to these tools. That's another important thing. Therefore, we are advocating for a human-centered approach to digitalization. And third, the capabilities. We spoke about that previously. Let me mention a couple of issues. The financial issues. Of course, large cities have more access to finance than small cities to hire a chief data officer. And second, I have to put this question on the table. We know that public data is free. Private data, of course, is not free. And this is where actually you can make a difference, working with all these cities to give them for free access to data. I don't know how you can do that, but that's very important for them. because many of them will not just be allowed to do that.
Well, I think we have probably about 2 minutes left. So perhaps I can ask each of you, if the audience was going to take away one thing from today's panel, 30 seconds or less, what would it be? Let's start here.
I'm going to stick with my unpack the link between assuming better data means better decisions and then impact on the ground for people around the world. There's so much that gets in the way of better data informing better decisions. It's almost to the point where the bias is that better data makes, worse decisions. You could almost say that. but just to say, I think we need to think more about what moves people. Is it numbers? Is it stories? How do you appeal to the emotive side of people? How do you appeal to the ego of people in power to make them take action? We need to understand even the neuroscience about how decisions are made. There's so much that we need to unpack between better data and better decisions for impact.
Vilas.
I really love that answer. I think the complexity of the moment requires a complex answer, but I'll be very quick. On one side, we need to do what everybody in this room does so well. Build those specific stories of impact through data and equip institutions to do it. But second is the slightly harder bit. We have to think about how we change the way we think about these fundamental questions around data and innovate new institutions and new mechanisms of action. And that's what I think this room can do particularly well.
Great. Thank you. I have 2 quick points. One is that let's not forget local civil society as an important dimension of this. They're actually every bit as important as many of the local governments are. If we miss helping build those organizations' capacity to better deal with data, we will miss a huge opportunity to accelerate the SDGs because those organizations are responsible for most of the delivery around the world. It's the network that is the last kilometer, it is the last mile. And the second piece I would say is that context, I think, is the forgotten data skill, right? If you don't know what the data mean, if you don't know how to use it, if you can't properly contextualize it, you will be more susceptible to bias, you will be more susceptible to causing harm. Incorporate good frameworks of context and understanding into how you use the data, and that will get us very a long way.
2 points as well. The first one is help building the public goods, help governments building the database because they cannot do that by themselves, first. And second, everybody here is concerned about digital divide among people. Think also about digital divide among places.
Well, the data tells me that we're out of time, so join me in thanking our 4 panelists today.